talking about literature. What is literature? Literature equals words. Napoleon Bonaparte even said, "A picture's worth 1,000 words." See? What does 1,000 words look like? There it is. Literature rhymes with furniture. Ooh. Literature rhymes with miniature. Miniature furniture. Ah. Miniature schnauzer. And even miniature food. Let's break it down now. Lit equals equals Tim the Toolman Taylor. Chur rhymes with sure. Bing! It also rhymes with dirt. And cure. Yay! Where does literature come from? Dun, dun, dun. Latin. What about Latin? We have Latin music. Hello, Ricky Martin. Latin America. Ay, ay, ay. And, of course, the Latin language. But what is literature? It's a literary production of work. See? It came from the Old English word Ballcraft. Ballcraft. Literature is a noun. A noun is a person, place, thing, or emotion. Literature. It deals with learning, writing, grammar, writing with letters, and it's archaic. See? But when was it first recorded? Actually, it was recorded in 1812 as a body of writing from a period of people. What else happened in 1812? The war. It was a leap year. And an earthquake destroys Caracas, Venezuela. Earthquake destroys Caracas. Well, I have nothing else to say, so let's watch this video. Make the evil eye, son. Come on, son, make the evil eye. You can do it. Hilarious.
TE for this informal tutorial about literature. I am really excited about it.
Oh, no problem. I always enjoy confusing my young eager students.
So, in your opinion, what is literature?
Well, that is the question, and important one too. Until we know what literature is, we cannot really posit a plausible literary theory. I mean, it would be like trying to explain the importance of aspirin without having experienced a headache. Well, literature has been defined in many ways. For example, some scholars define it as imaginative writing, or as writing that is not true. This implies that only fiction can be true literature.
Well, that sounds interesting, but I have read some pretty unimaginative works of imaginative fiction.
Yes. Also, if you look at what we call literature diachronically, this definition does not hold.
Sorry for the interruption, Professor. What in tarnation is diachronic? One of my crazy Pakistani professors uses it all the time.
Diachronic is a term describing a mode of analysis that undertakes to construct the historical evolution of a system of thought or language. The synchronic, by contrast, undertakes to describe the system as an existing whole without respect to its history. Structural linguistics rejects the diachronic assumptions of classical philology, which studies linguistic change over a long period of time, and embraces the synchronic assumptions of Saussurean linguistics, which studies language as a functioning system existing in the here and now.
Well, that has confused me more, but coming back to our question at hand, why does defining literature as fiction not hold?
Well, if you take a cursory look at 17th century English literature, you will find a diverse array of authors grouped together: Shakespeare, Webster, Marvell, Milton, Browne, Sir Thomas More, Bacon, and even Hobbes. Not all of these writers wrote imaginative, unrealistic works. This implies that literature does not always has to be a work of fiction.
So what is it then?
Perhaps we need to look at it from a different perspective. For example, in terms of not what literature is, but what kind of language it employs. The Russian formalists had such a formal view of literature.
Wait. Russian formalists? I thought all Russians were communists whose legacy has now been passed on to President Obama and other socialist liberal fascists. Sorry, sometimes my Tea Party sensitivities suddenly explode.
Oh, no problem at all. I like tea myself, with peach scones by the way.
So, who were Russian formalists?
Well, according to the precepts of Russian formalism, content is the motivation of form, and the literary work is an assemblage of devices which function within a total textual system. Literariness emerges when these devices, normally perceived by the reader to be familiar and conventional, are foregrounded, brought into an unaccustomed prominence such that the effect upon the reader is one of estrangement or defamiliarization. Literature, by bearing the device, de-automatizes one's perceptions, its language composing a deliberate set of deviations from the norms of ordinary language. In its hybridization, its heterogeneous mixture of devices, conventions, forms, and techniques, literature, in the words of Roman Jacobson, is organized violence committed on ordinary speech.
That is pretty freaky. But I think I understood a bit. What you mean is that for the Russian formalists, literature is literature because it says things in unfamiliar ways, thus making it hard for the reader to simply breeze through a literary text.
Yes, precisely. But furthermore, such an experience is supposed to stop the reader in her tracks, and then force her to reflect about the world. In this sense, all works that use a specialized language and vocabulary can be categorized as literature.
So, this means anything that sounds unfamiliar and hard to read can be literature.
Yes, and no. The unfamiliar language alone does not qualify something as literature. After all, a technical manual can be quite taxing and hard to read. So, literature is more than just some specific use of language.
So, can you give me a definite answer, as I have to leave soon to join a pro-corporation rally?
Not today, dear. But maybe in our next meeting we will continue this conversation.
Okay, till then. So long, Professor, and thank you.
My dear. How was the pro-corporation rally?
Great, Professor. I think we have started a corporate revolution. It's just a matter of time before the workers of the world are defeated.
Oh dear, I thought they had already been defeated. Anyway, would you like to continue our discussion of literature?
Yes, if literature is not just fiction, nor just a text but uses unfamiliar language, then what is it?
Well, for a convincing answer to the formalist paradigm, one has to understand as to what makes a reader find a certain text and its devices estranging.
I have no clue. That is why I am spending my precious time with you. To get the answers.
Well, I'm coming to that. Some critics believe that what makes the language in a text strange is deeply informed by the reader's views of what is normal or normative. And normative, as is obvious, is highly culture-specific. Therefore, any defamiliarization in the text can only be experienced with a reference to what one perceives as normal, which, of course, can change depending upon who is experiencing the text.
I get it. Just like the socialists hate Fox News, even though to us Tea Partiers it is fair and balanced.
Yes, but some people also simply reduce the question of literature to an exercise in value judgments. As I explained in my book, Literary Theory, valuing something as literature and literary is also highly subjective, and depends on what is considered so in a given culture at a given time, and might change, if time and space were altered.
Well, obviously literary works can have value in themselves, and it is that value that decides their literariness.
In my opinion, there is no such thing as a literary work or a literary tradition. And I'm quoting myself here. Value, my dear, is a transitive term. It means whatever is valued by certain people in specific situations, according to particular criteria, and in the light of given purposes. We always interpret literary works in the light of our own concerns.
So, literature is what we consider literature.
Yes and no. What we consider literature is based upon our values, and our values are always socially constructed.
So, then what would be your final word on literature?
Well, what I can say, and you can read the details in my book, is that literature does not exist as a thing, but is constituted through value judgments, and those value judgments themselves have a close relation to social ideologies.
Well, this has left me rather confused, but I will definitely read your book and trouble you with more questions.
No problem. Come and visit me, whenever you are free.
I will, Professor. Thank you for all your help.